Honeycomb production, producing and selling sections of edible honeycomb, the golden standard, a deep dive into producing and selling edible honeycomb. So you've decided to move beyond liquid honey and dive into the world of comb honey production. Smart move. There is something primal, beautiful, and undeniably premium about a perfect square of honeycomb sitting in its own golden nectar. It is the rawest form of honey, untouched by centrifugal force, heat, or heavy filtration. If you are a beekeeper looking to diversify your apiary's income, or an entrepreneur eyeing the artisanal food market, honeycomb is your liquid gold 2.0. But let's be real. It's not as simple as just letting the bees do their thing. Producing honeycomb is an art form that requires timing, healthy bees, and a bit of a gamble with the weather. In this guide, we are going to walk through everything from the biology of wax production to the psychology of high-end branding. By the end, you'll have a roadmap for turning a buzzing hive into a profitable honeycomb business. Why honeycomb? The market appeal. Before we get into the how, let's talk about the why. Why bother with the extra work of section honey? 1. The purity factor. Modern consumers are obsessed with transparency. When a customer buys a jar of liquid honey, they have to trust the label that it hasn't been cut with corn syrup or overheated. When they buy a piece of edible honeycomb, the proof is in the wax. It is impossible to fake. It's the ultimate farm-to-table product. 2. Higher profit margins. Because honeycomb requires more intensive management and specific conditions, it commands a much higher price point than liquid honey. You aren't just selling a sweetener, you're selling a delicacy. People buy it for charcuterie boards, gourmet gifts, and health supplements. 3. Reduced infrastructure. Believe it or not, you actually save money on some equipment. You don't need a multi-$1,000 honey extractor, settling tanks, or expensive bottling lines. Your packaging is largely done by the bees themselves. Your job is simply to harvest, trim, and case it. The biology of the build. How bees make comb. To produce great honeycomb, you have to understand the metabolism of the honeybee. Bees don't just find wax, they secrete it. Young worker bees, usually between 12 and 18 days old, possess wax glands on the underside of their abdomens. To produce just 1 pound of beeswax, bees must consume roughly 6 to 8 pounds of honey. This is why honeycomb is so precious. It represents a massive caloric investment by the colony. The flow is everything. You cannot produce honeycomb during a nectar dearth. To get bees to draw out fresh, white, virgin wax, you need a heavy nectar flow. This is when the flowers are on, and the bees are bringing in more sugar than they can eat. This surplus triggers the building instinct. If the flow stops, they stop building. If you try to force it during a slow period, the wax will be tough, yellowed, and unappealing. Choosing your production method. There are several ways to produce edible honeycomb, and your choice will depend on your budget and how much work you want the bees to do. 1. The cut comb method. This is the most common entry point. You use standard wooden frames, but instead of plastic foundation, you use thin surplus wax foundation or no foundation at all, foundationless. The process. Bees fill the frame with honey. You take a hot knife, cut the comb into squares, and let the edges drain on a wire rack before packaging. Pros. Low specialized equipment cost. Cons. It can be messy, and you lose some honey during the draining process. 2. The section system, Ross rounds or cassettes. This is the pro move. You use specialized supers, the boxes on top of the hive, that hold plastic rings or square cassettes. The process. The bees build the comb directly into a circular or square plastic ring. Once it's capped, you pop the ring out, snap on 2 lids, and label it. Pros. Zero mess, uniform weight, and incredibly professional appearance. Cons. The equipment is more expensive, and bees can sometimes be finicky about entering the plastic sections. 3. The hog half-comb system. Invented by beekeeper John Hogg, this system uses thin plastic cassettes that are slightly recessed. The bees build the comb directly into the packaging. When it's done, you have a beautiful, thin slice of comb that is perfect for individual sale. Hive management for maximum output. Producing honeycomb isn't a set-it-and-forget-it operation. It requires active management. Here is how you set your bees up for success. Step 1. Selecting the right colony. Not every hive is a honeycomb hive. You need a colony that is boiling over with bees. You want a young, prolific queen and a high population of wax-building aged bees. If a colony is sluggish or weak, they will never finish a section of comb, leaving you with half-filled, unmarketable frames. Step 2, the congestion trick. Bees are naturally efficient. If they have extra space, they'll use it. To get them to build honeycomb, you often have to crowd them. By slightly compressing the colony into a smaller space, you force the bees up into the honeycomb supers. Warning, crowding can trigger the swarming instinct. You must monitor for queen cells closely. A swarm is the enemy of a honeycomb harvest, as half the workforce leaves just as the flow starts. Step 3. Timing the supering. Timing is the difference between white wax and travel-stained wax. You want to put your honeycomb supers on just as the main flow starts. Think clover, basswood, or wildflower peaks. White wax. This is what you want. It's freshly secreted wax that hasn't been walked on much. Travel. Stained. If you leave the comb on the hive too long after it's capped, the bees walking over it with dirty feet, propolis and pollen, will turn the wax yellow or brown. It's still edible, but it loses that boutique look. Harvesting and processing. Once the bees have capped the cells, sealed them with wax, it's time to move fast. The bee escape. You don't want to use heavy chemicals or fume boards to clear bees from honeycomb, as the wax can absorb the smell. Instead, use a bee escape, a one-way door that lets bees leave the super but not return. After 24 to 48 hours, the super should be bee-free. The freezer, your best friend. This is the most important step that beginners skip. You must freeze your honeycomb for 48 hours immediately after harvest. Why? Wax moths. Microscopic wax moth eggs are present in almost every hive. If you package your comb and leave it on a shelf, those eggs will hatch, and tiny larvae will tunnel through your beautiful product, leaving webbing and waste. Freezing kills the eggs and preserves the integrity of the comb. Packaging, selling the experience. In the world of honeycomb, the packaging is 50% of the value. You aren't just selling sugar, you're selling a luxury aesthetic. Labels and branding. Your label should be clean and highlight the floral source. Wildflower honeycomb is good, but early summer basswood honeycomb is better. Mention that it is raw, unfiltered, and hand-cut. Containers. Clear clamshells. These are standard for cut comb. They allow the customer to see the crust of the comb and the flow of the honey. Wooden frames. Some high-end producers sell the entire mini frame. This looks incredible on a buffet table, but requires a higher price point. Glass jars, chunk honey. If you have pieces of comb that didn't come out perfectly square, don't toss them. Put them in a glass jar and fill the rest of the space with liquid honey. This is called chunk honey, and it's a southern classic that sells very well. Marketing and sales strategies. Now that you have a stack of beautiful frozen then thawed labeled honeycomb, where do you sell it? 1. The charcuterie connection. Reach out to local wine bars, cheese shops, and upscale restaurants. Honeycomb is the it ingredient for charcuterie boards. Offer them a wholesale price if they buy in bulk. Better yet, offer to do a tasting event where you show their customers how to pair honeycomb with different cheeses. Pro tip, it's amazing with shop cheddar or creamy brie. 2. Farmers markets. At a farmer's market, honeycomb is a stop and stare item. Most people have only seen liquid honey. Keep a small sample plate out using toothpicks so people can experience the texture. Once they realize the wax is edible and has a gum-like consistency, they are often hooked. 3. Online and social media. Honeycomb is incredibly Instagrammable. Use high-quality photography, backlight the comb so the light shines through the amber cells, show a video of a knife slicing through the wax and the honey oozing out. This food porn style of marketing works exceptionally well for high-ticket food items. The economics of honeycomb. Let's talk numbers. A standard wannabe jar of liquid honey might sell for $10 or $15. A 12 size square of cut honeycomb can easily sell for $20 to $30. While you get fewer total pounds of honey because the bees spend so much energy making wax, your price per ounce skyrockets. Additionally, because you aren't spending hours in a honey house extracting and cleaning equipment, your labor per dollar can actually be more favorable once you master the system. Troubleshooting common issues. The bees won't go into the super. This is the most common complaint. If the bees are ignoring your honeycomb super, they might have too much room in the brood nest. Try baiting them by moving a frame of capped honey from below into the center of the honeycomb super, if using cut comb, or simply wait for a stronger nectar flow. The honey is crystallizing in the comb. All honey crystallizes eventually, but some sources like goldenrod or canola crystallize very fast. Avoid using these for honeycomb. Stick to sources like clover, sourwood, or acacia, which stay liquid for a long time. If it does crystallize, it's still edible, but it loses that liquid gold visual appeal. The wax is too tough. This usually happens if the comb is old or if the bees used a lot of propolis. Edible honeycomb should be virgin wax, meaning it has never had baby bees, brood, raised in it. Only sell comb that was built in the current season for the best mouthfeel. Conclusion, a sweet future. Producing edible honeycomb is a journey back to the roots of beekeeping. It requires a deeper connection to the seasons, a better understanding of bee behavior, and a flair for premium marketing. It isn't the easy way to make honey, but it is certainly one of the most rewarding. When you hand a customer a clear box containing a perfect hexagonal masterpiece built by 10,000 bees, you aren't just a seller, you're a curator of nature's finest work.